Hello, everybody, and welcome to the View Screen podcast, a podcast where myself, Viztee, introduces fantasy enjoyer Overlite to science fiction shows.
I've never seen a sci-fi show.
We're going to be first taking a look this episode at Battlestar Galactica, and we're going to be watching the two-part miniseries, which is about 3 hours long, and we're just going to jump into our complete ramble. I hope you enjoy. I've watched it a lot.
Yeah.
So my notes are basically just talking about like how the show was shot and how I fucking love it and the music and stuff. So, and then like some little things that are like, how the show is.
I think that is actually the first thing I like. The most prominent thing watching it is just the difference in how it looks and how it's presented and how it sort of unfolds compared to how stuff today is shot. And I really like it.
Yeah. I this is one of my favorite things, I think, in sort of sci-fi in television. It's just like it's such a beautifully shot show in the sort of it's the cinema verite style, the like shaky cam, like you're there, and with the zooms, the random zooms and stuff. It's so fucking good. I want more shows like it. Every time I see a new series of something, I'm like, I wish they filmed it the way they filmed Battlestar Galactica. It's so like immersive,
I did notice it was quite grainy at times. When I would start,
there's definitely like
earlier in the episode, I would notice how grainy it was, and then I either got used to it or that like faded out. I'm not sure which, but I don't know if it's like because it's old or if that's just how they shot it.
No, I think they shot it in or like put a filter on for that sort of style, because the show was shot in like those episodes were shot. Well, they released in 2003,
right?
So it can't have been like too. It's not like the cameras were super old or whatever. I think it's just like the style that they've gone for to make it feel, because it in the whole show aesthetically it's a science fiction show, right? They're flown on a spaceship with gravity, and they're flying through space, and they can jump thousands of they can teleport through space and all this, but they don't have like networked computers on the ship. And they don't have, and they're using handheld phones, and they've got button switches and everything. So it feels very old fashioned. So they've put like this sort of grainy texture over the top.
It does feel like it's like it could be from like the 80s or something.
Yeah, it's very nice.
That's actually something weirdly. So I love fantasy, right? And I love wizards, and I love magic, and I love dragons. But watching it, and like the fact that the Battlestar Galactica, that's a fucking mouthful. It's got like hangar bays. But the hangar bays are literally like, it's just a big like donut. It's just a really, really wide donut or thick donut. Like it's a cylinder. It's just a cylinder that goes out the side. It's not got like laser entrances like Star Wars.
No.
It's not. They've not got like any.
It's got a big depressurized bay that so the ship is just a long tube essentially, and then there's like these little tubes that come out of the side of it that are these depressurized hangar bays for the ships to land on, and then they suck back in as necessary. It's a very there isn't any magical force fields like Star Wars where you can walk around with your mask off or Star Trek and
it's weird how it feels like the opposite of something I would like, but watching it, I feel like it gave it so much weight, and that was another thing watching like a lot of events and things that happen were given a lot of weight And I felt like the within like the setting as well, like all of the I don't think this is massive spoilers. Very early on, they make a very big deal out of how the entire ship is like basically has no computers. Or like it has
Yeah,
computers, but like none of the computers are connected to each other. So
yeah,
like
yeah. Because
you don't have a remote control, or like you
yeah,
can't
yeah,
have
yeah. There's
auto
no
targeting or auto flight, or auto, everything has to be done sort of like quite manually.
yeah, which was how that ship was originally run. It's just in the setting that the technology has advanced while there has been this peace treaty, which we'll get to.
Hmm.
So it's just been like the sort of networking has come back in the like and that Adama hates it basically. He's an old fuddy duddy and he's like, while I'm in charge of this ship, y'all ain't putting any of this fucking networking shit on it, all
It's
right?
weird though because
Um
to it from our perspective, he's not an old fuddy duddy. It's just that ship is. I mean, it's been turned into like a museum, and they're like,
yeah,
"Oh,
it's a
we can bring you at one point early on. This is still super early stuff. I don't think it's massive spoilers.
well, we're gonna talk through it anyway.
Yeah.
It's
At one
fine.
point, they're like, "Oh, we can add this integrated thing so you can like automatically open your doors or something like that." I can't remember the
Yeah,
exact.
I can't remember
And
that
he's like, "No,
specifically.
no integrated anything, no networking, no
Yeah. Oh,
no
yeah. They're
computers
like
can
it's
talk to each
something they
other."
talk. Yeah, it's something about to help the kids learn something
Yeah,
computer school networking because they're coming. The kids will be coming to this museum and they'll be learning stuff about Battlestars and the war and Cylons and stuff. And they're like, he's like, nope. As long as I'm on the ship and I'm in charge, you ain't doing any networking at all.
yeah. And
Um,
the other characters are like, "Oh, he's just an old like an old military."
yeah, it's grumpy old military grumpy pants.
And but like from our perspective, obviously we know there's Cylons coming. Um, but it's weird how easy it is. I felt to watch and be like, yeah, I mean this makes sense. Just like this one ship, the entire thing is built this way. Why would you even want to ruin that? Like,
Yeah,
that's almost
exactly.
better for the museum.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got its wired phones that you like. It kind of reminds me of the really early the 60s Star Trek, right? And like
Right,
Kirk gets a
gonna have to
message.
get that in
Hang
a
wait,
long
wait,
time. I
yeah,
haven't seen that.
okay. Well, like on the original Enterprise, because this was like pre-mobile phones, right?
Right.
Because the mobile phone was based on the original Motorola. Was it even that, or was it even earlier than that? The original mobile phone, I think, or one of the original ones, was based on a Star Trek flip communicator.
Mm.
Um, like the whole premise of it, and it's which is just madness. But in Star Trek, the original series, they like go, oh, we have to talk to somebody, and so Kirk gets a message, and he goes beep 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 or whatever, and Kirk goes up and flicks a switch on the wall and goes, "What's up, Bridge?" and and they're like, "Captain, there's Klingons off the starboard bow," and he's like, "Thank you, I'll be right there," and he flicks off a switch. So it's a lot like that. Like it just feels really old. Whereas in sci-fi now, it's like beep boop boop beep beep. Captain, come over to the bridge, and they just talk into the air. They go, "I'll be right there," and then they hop into the magical turbo lift and they fly up and they just suddenly appear on the bridge or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas it's so much more like I don't know, it feels more real because it's stuff that we know and we like use, you
I think
know.
that's part of it. I feel like I've just been watching shows that are not as good at kind of keeping track of everything that's going on. And it's worth noting there's like what, like 10 perspectives or something? Like technically 10. There's like 3 or 4 main ones, but then there's like another 4 or 5 characters who it just occasionally shows, and it does a really good job of tracking each of them and telling us like, hey, this is what's going on here, this is what's going on there. This is like,
I'm pretty sure like every character's perspective you see in the show, apart from maybe the odd one, are like the main characters of the entire show. essentially. So you are being introduced to them, even if the story that's being told in the first two episodes is more focused on a certain few.
Yeah.
Um, it is nice to sort of roll in and introduce all these other characters.
Yeah, no, it was just I don't know. I would happily watch the rest of the rest of the
Well,
show.
there we go. That's the whole premise of this thing is will to watch these little like first few episodes of these sci-fi shows and say, hey, Overlite, as a fantasy fan, would you watch these sci-fi shows? And we've just instantly hit on yes, yes. I've picked the best
You
one
picked the
to
best
start
one.
with.
It's all downhill from here.
It probably is, yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think this might be my favorite one on the list.
So, Viztee, are
It's
there any
just
other
such a beautiful show.
are there any other shows like this that can match up to the level of
I mean, maybe The Expanse. I think has that more gritty, realism
We'll
to
get
it.
to that.
But we'll get there eventually. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I want to talk about the sound just for a
Oh,
bit.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just really good.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you just mean the sound effects or the music or both?
the music was most of what I noticed. I think it probably has really good sound effects because when something has good sound effects, you don't notice it. Like that's the perfect sound effect, right? So I was mostly thinking about the music, where especially around like whenever there's something tense going on, the music is like so in all the fights, in all the space battles, there's like drums. And it's like just drums.
I fucking love
and it's
the drums.
so
yes,
intense.
It's beautiful.
It's oh my gosh! I was sitting there watching that, like I am vibing with these drums, but also my blood rate is going up, and this is just really exciting. But then like all of the like narrative moments that are quite tense. I think there was this one theme that I can't remember because I'm just thinking about the drums. It's just got really good music around the sort of tension. I don't even know if it has any other like any other tracks.
There's definitely. I mean, in those first two episodes, I think I was paying quite a lot of attention trying to like watch the music because I've watched the show a lot of times before.
Yeah.
So I was thinking the music is something I love about the whole series. It's Bear McCreary that does the music, and you've probably heard some of the things they've done before because they're an astonishingly great composer. They've done famously quite recently. They've done the Rings of Power soundtrack. They've done God of War, the video game. They did Outlander, the TV show. They've done like one of the Call of Duty games soundtracks. They've done a lot of video game and TV soundtracks.
I've probably heard.
They are fantastic. You will have heard something that they've done for sure.
At some point, none of the things you named, except maybe Call of Duty.
Yeah,
and I've only played like one of those.
Yeah, probably not the one. But like the music in the show. I was trying to like see if there were any of the sort of leitmotifs. It's a very leitmotif focused music throughout the whole. Not in those first two episodes really.
Okay.
But in the rest of the show, it definitely leans further and further into them, and a lot of the characters have their own like motif, and it's very beautiful. And the instruments, obviously the drums. Later on, we get a lot of bagpipes for certain characters and stuff. It's just, I just love bagpipes so much.
I just love bagpipes.
I just love bagpipes. They're so good.
And they make that beautiful wind sound.
Yeah. And I think that the show's soundtrack is definitely one of the soundtracks I can listen back to without like any show context and actually makes me cry.
You know what? Hearing about the motifs makes me want to watch it even more. Because I can get very excited when I'm like, there's like a dramatic scene, or even not a dramatic scene, just any kind of scene with any kind of emotion, and I'm like, the motif of this character is playing while they talk, and now the other one's talking and their motif is playing, and it's like sad because they're grieving whatever has happened, and it's just
give me more. Just anything, any show that uses leitmotif, so good. I mean, obviously the most well-known example is Lord of the Rings, or Star Wars even. Star Wars, probably the most
Star Wars 100%.
obvious
Wow,
Um,
wow, wow.
every character has their leitmotif. Every like it, they you see them throughout. They weave together. They're happy. They're sad. It's beautifully done, and I just I think it's the one thing missing from a lot of more modern film and TV quite frequently, really.
I think
Strangely.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say there's a lot of things missing from more modern
Well, yeah, I
TV,
mean, that's true.
and I'm gonna mostly think about unions when mostly think about how much CGI there is and the fact that CGI isn't unionized.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking how so before we dive into the sort of plot of the show and start working through things you've theorized and
Mm,
stuff, how did you find the very small amount
I
of
loved it.
CGI? Yeah.
I actually
Um
it like I feel like this is coming from my perspective where I am already excited about just the fact that the show has this weight and looks old, and then the
mm,
CGI also looks old, and I'm like, this is so perfect. Like
yeah, because
this,
I think it still holds up, but
yeah,
it doesn't look like it's not like 2022 shiny sci-fi, but it doesn't like CGI, sorry. But it doesn't look like let's say the Scorpion King or the
yeah. I think that is
it
part of it. That modern CGI is very shiny, and it. I was thinking how I was thinking about I think it's the latest Call of Duty game has that one cutscene in Amsterdam. I think a lot of people probably
yeah
saw, and I thought that was real Amsterdam when I saw it. For the first time, for the first 10 seconds, I was like, "That's just Amsterdam. What's going on here?" And it took me a second to
yeah
realize.
because I was playing it and I was like, oh, I've been there because you're in the red light district. And I was like, I walked through there not that long ago.
Wow. um, but then there's something about I don't know. There's something about the way it's done that I can't quite put my finger on it. That just is
Yeah.
so. It's not convincing in a way that's
If
that I'm
it's
I can't tell this apart. But it's convincing that I'm this is perfectly in line with the show and
yeah.
almost
It fits the
better.
style
Yeah,
rather than being as realistic as it can possibly be for the time.
yeah, and that might be
Which for it,
because they were aiming for an older look, and so they just having older CGI fits just because
yeah.
that's how we see it.
I was thinking there was a beautiful shot of the Galactica coming down to what is Ragnar Anchorage.
Mm,
Spoilers, and they the anchorage is like this just big space station with these spinning rings,
yes.
and it was just a very brief shot, but it looks really nice because there's all of this cloud and dust because they're in this nebula, and it's just
Yeah.
the composition of compositing and everything. It was just such a imagine all that dust wasn't there, then the CG would probably look really weird, right? But because of the lighting, the dust and everything, it was just a beautiful shot, and it just holds up so well.
Yeah.
It's nearly 20 years old,
Nearly
um,
20
it's
years old.
and I think it looks like better than a lot of stuff done today.
I think the one time or the one or two times I was pulled out a little bit was I think there's an early sort of dogfight. Is that what they're called? Space
Yeah,
fight.
yeah,
There's fighter.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
just
yeah.
all in fighters flying around. And it cuts to a shot of someone in the ship, and then it cuts out again. And
Mm.
at that point, I started thinking about CGI instead of watching the show.
Oh no.
But I think that was the only time because I started thinking about how if they would be able to, they wouldn't be able to show a shot zooming in on the cockpit and have it transition. That just wouldn't work. I don't know why I started thinking about that, but I think it's because I found the transition from CGI to just straight up camera cockpit actor
Yeah,
and then
I
back to
think they get a
CGI
lot
a
better
bit
at it
jarring.
as the show goes on. But there is a lot of that sort of because I think the way they transition a lot in the show with the sort of and even I don't remember how much of this is in the early space battles, but there's a lot of shaky cam and tail and sort of shaky cam in the dogfights and in the space shots too.
Yeah.
Which is still and like the sort of random sort of zooms, the like zoom too far in, pull back kind of zooms as well. In the space battles and I think there's a lot of shots that are out of when they zoom in, it's out of focus and they have to focus it up, but it's just beautifully done.
I don't know how much of that stuff is in it, but I certainly feel like there was sort of camera going like
a lot more
off in the wrong place. Like the ship's flying out of view and like struggling to keep up with them.
Yeah. That is the full cinema verite style.
And often
it's lovely.
Just like shots of ships like just maneuvering in space, like just turning around while there's other ships around them and things like that. Very chaotic.
Yeah.
I think it was better for that regard.
Well, shall we talk through the of actual plot and where you
please?
And I can't wait to hear your theories.
I feel like just I don't know. I feel like I'm like a, you know that meme with the guy and the pinboard and the red lines. I felt like I have some of that energy. I had some of that energy going in, especially because I read the synopsis for the miniseries, and I've had you explain the concept to me of cylons, in that they are robots that perfectly imitate people, and the incredibly famous line that you keep saying to me is, any one of us could be a cylon.
Yeah, and it's true.
And I'm going into that, and then I see literally everywhere on every poster is this one image of this particular blonde woman with like red eyes, like she's a Terminator and going to kill someone. Yeah. And I'm like,
she's clearly human, right?
In my head, I'm like, okay, there's two things going on here. Either she's obviously a cylon, one of these people imitating robots from the start, and that's just a given. Or all of these images have been like desecrated in post, and everybody knows about the blonde woman who turns out to be a cylon, and now it's just like, it's like how everyone knows Darth Vader is Luke's father, and that's just a thing that everyone knows, like, and so that's just a thing to be discovered later on. So I go in with the I went in with the attitude of like, we are probably gonna have some like unreliable narrators, is what I was thinking at the start.
Well, there's definitely some unreliable narration of some characters' POVs. I think, because it starts off, and that very same blonde character you're describing is the show starts off, and I think
it's text.
Right from it shows it's some text, which is just like, I didn't write the text down.
No, it's like
kind of
40 years ago. Humans built robots called cylons to serve them. Yeah, and they rose up, had a war.
That's what always happens.
The cylons lost and left.
Yeah, then an armistice was signed, and they built a space station on the border. And every so many years or year or something, they send a person to sit there, and nothing happens. And that person just sits at the armistice station, and that's it.
Yeah, the cylons never turn up.
Yeah. They don't even bother to say, hey, yep, things are going good. Except this time, and where two Centurions, two of the normal robotic metal cylons show up. It was actually I did note this down. It was on the piece of paper that the guy has who's in the armistice station on the desk. It shows the original models of the Centurions, the old versions. And notes them, and so you can like look at those it shows the papers, and then shows the robots coming in that look different, and then our blonde lady walks in with the cylons, and she goes over to the human, and she's like, well, are you human? And let's find out. And she gives him a kiss, and then the station explodes, and they all die.
I love parts of this scene, specifically bringing the old robots in first, and then bringing in the lady. Just that like dichotomy of like the Cylons, they're here. The scary Terminator robots, and then the sexy Terminator walks in.
And you're like, wait, why is there a sexy lady here
Yeah.
with these very new versions of the Cylons that we've never seen before? That's strange.
And it very quickly is a very visual way of just being like, anyone could be a Cylon.
Yeah,
They look like you. The one thing that what did I write? I wrote, not sure how feel about old man kissing, but go off queen. Because she's like this super sexy blonde bombshell, and he's some grumpy, like 60s kind of grotty looking old military man.
Yeah,
and she just like goes
a captain or something.
Yeah, and she just goes full like make out mode with him.
Yeah, proper full on snogging.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then they blow up the space station, and that's the intro.
That's it. So you're just like, oh, she's dead now, right?
Right.
We'll leave that for later. No. And then it's like it just cuts to Galactica just chilling out with all of the museum stuff.
So I will say, this entire time I am literally like looking for clues constantly, and so I think the next things I wrote were great intro in all caps, and then unreliable narrator, just to remind myself that we could have some absolute bastard moments where like they show us a character we trust and it turns out they've been a Cylon the whole time. Like I'm like, okay. Are they gonna do that?
Well, maybe.
And
maybe not in the first 2 episodes.
And then I write some things that I don't understand, which is to say I wrote Lieutenant Sus in all caps, and then I wrote Prosna Sus in all caps, and I don't even remember which characters Prosna and the Lieutenant are.
Okay, I don't know. Well, there's Lieutenant Gator, who is the guy who's on the bridge, and he sort of manages everybody on the bridge, manages a lot of the ship stuff, plots like hyperspace jumps, the hyperlight jumps and stuff.
Right.
Maybe you meant them. I can't think of which of the characters were definitely called Lieutenant. I'm not sure. And then Prosna, I think, is one of the engineers. But I don't think he lasted very.
Oh no, I remember who he is now.
Yeah. So there's, I think, it does introduce a bunch of the characters that play out like straight away. We see Laura Roslin as the Secretary of Education. She's on the Galactica chilling out. We see Red Shirt guy, whose name I can't remember, who's like managing the museum side of the museum installation.
Kind of looks
on the
like
Galactica.
Saul Goodman from Breaking Bad. He looks like
I have never seen Breaking Bad.
Like a smooth hair. Neither have I, but
okay.
There's a lot of memes.
Okay. I honestly, I can't remember that character. I don't even know if they name him in those first 2 episodes.
I don't think they do.
He's just there.
Yeah.
And he gets talked to a lot, but nobody says their name. I don't remember it.
Something I really enjoy quite early on is there's a lot of mystery to the Cylons, and I basically started like trying to identify how you can identify a Cylon. And the first thing I noted was trust old man -memory, because I was like, if he was a Cylon, he would have perfect memory, and he wouldn't have to he wouldn't be on his own. He's like practicing a script or something for a speech.
Oh, Adama is yeah.
So we've got
commander of the Galactica. Yeah.
The captain, the admiral, or whatever you call him, of this.
Yeah, it's the commander.
The commander of the entire Galactica. He's this old dude who fought in the old Cylon War, and he's like, it's just opening with him, or he's I think he's introduced, just trying to learn this speech.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of beautiful shots introducing them, because I think there's a shot that walks through the corridors. There's like a single shot of following him learning his speech, and then it like cuts to or from, I can't remember, a single straight shot of one of the other characters, Kara Thrace, who's one of the pilots, running through the ship, which is also just a single
Oh
sweeping
yeah,
shot.
they do this one really really long shot going through the corridors, following
Yeah,
characters, and then other characters walk by and they start following them, and then like
yeah,
another
and
one
it's
of the
just a
characters comes
continuous
back, and
shot.
yeah,
Yeah, it's very nice.
it's a really really good one.
Um, where did we get to? So Adama's learning his speech.
Mm.
And we meet Billy and Dee. Is that there? Or do we
Billy,
cut somewhere
Billy's the curly
first?
head lad, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Who's D?
She's the comms officer, Dwala.
Oh, Duala,
The-
right? Yeah,
yeah.
Duala. Mm.
Mm.
So isn't
And,
there a
they-
moment where they walk past each other?
Yeah,
Isn't
and
it-
they
they walk
give each
past
other
each
the
other,
instant.
and they
it's love at
both-
first sight.
No, they both turn and look, and I'm like, Cylons! Both of them! They're both Cylons! This is a
I'm
signal!
like, yeah, they're gonna bang.
They're
and
making
everybody's like,
contact!
yep, they're Cylons. They're making contact.
And this is
with
me
each
the
other.
entire time. from here until a long good while, I'm basically just jumping at everything like silence, silence.
Oh my gosh. Oh wait, I've missed a thing too. There's a scene with Starbuck, the pilot, Kara Thrace.
Yeah, we've got this ace fighter
Yeah.
pilot.
Yeah, her Hilo, who is one of the sort of people who works on one of the sort of ships there, like a sort of navigator-y kind of fella. Works on one of the smaller scout ships. We've got the second in command of the entire ship, Soltai, and we have the pilot of one of those scout ships, Boomer, is their code name, and like I think there's maybe somebody else there. They're all playing a card game, and there's a lot of tension there between Kara and Soltai. You know, the ace pilot and the second in command of the ship.
Yeah.
And it ends with punches thrown.
There's a specific line that the ace pilot is like, how's the wife? To the old guy. It turns out she's like, they're divorced or something, I think.
Yeah.
And I am like, she's a Cylon.
The wife?
She's taunting him because she knows that she'll be dead soon.
Oh my gosh.
I'm making every time I'm like, this could be a Cylon moment.
We're probably like 5 minutes into the show, and Overlite's identified several people that he believes may be a Cylon.
We're gonna have to skip, I think, quite a lot because we could spend
I think we
so
are,
long
we
talking
can't
about
do.
this.
I think so. Generally, it just flicks through. We learn that the Secretary of State, Secretary of Education, Laura Roslin. We find out she has cancer.
Yeah.
And in that scene, I think we find out that Gaius Baltar, who is this genius, like Elon Musk style, but not as much of a cunt. Bleep that out.
Not as much of
a asshole.
He's a genius.
He's a genius. He's a slut, and
he loves fucking.
He only loves himself, and he basically works for the government and makes their code for their networking code for their ships, etc. Right, and we see him with dun the sexy blonde lady from the intro.
Yeah.
Who is at this point definitely a Cylon. All doubts thrown out of the window. And
I think we immediately go into the shot of them getting it on.
No, I think there's a shot before it where we see sexy Cylon walking through the street, actually.
Oh yes,
and
yes.
Yeah. So she comes across a woman with her baby, and she's like, "Oh, what a lovely baby, may I?" And she holds the baby, and then the woman's husband calls to her, so she steps slightly away to look away, and the blonde Cylon kills the baby, and then walks away.
Now,
which is
I really like what this show does very early on. Which I don't know if it is sort of I think it does it from the outset, right? Which is asking she in the intro asks the old military guy, "Are you human?" And it like immediately there's like this idea of like they are perfect imitations of humans. Are they the same as us? Are they? And you'll like see her as you go through the episode, the 2 episodes. She is kind of there to be like not well to be sort of bringing that question back up. I feel like of like what is human and what is not human. And she does kill the child, and I was like, when I saw that, I was like, Cylons don't know their own strength. She accidentally killed the child, and then I immediately realized when she started getting it on with Gaius, I was like, oh no, she definitely knows her strength. I think it was a mercy killing.
I think that was definitely what it was. She knew what was coming.
Yeah.
And she felt bad, and she killed that baby to save it, spare it from the nuclear apocalypse that was very soon approaching.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's really interesting because I think it initially is played as her being just a weird, terrifying robot monster.
Yeah.
Because she acts
and it isn't
weirdly. She holds herself very strangely.
Yeah. And it isn't till like we find out a bit more about what's coming that you go, hang on a second. I think she did that to save the child from more pain.
Yeah. It was between the first and second episode. I thought about it and I was like, wait a minute.
Wait a second. What else? So then we see them getting on.
And I wrote the note, this show is for nerds - sexy woman, because we're like 10 minutes in and it's just been like, here's some naked people getting it on. Here's a very voluptuous blonde bombshell kissing a man. Here's her kissing a... Look at all of these beautiful people kissing and sexy times. You nerds love that, right? I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little bit of that, but I kind of didn't mind it because it was, I don't know, it was okay.
I wrote something down and I can't remember. I think it's because we basically see lots of people getting it on or giving each other the eyes.
Okay.
So we see Billy and Indawal, like they give each other the sexy first glance. We see Gaius and Six, the Cylon,
I'm pretty sure
giving each other the sexy times.
Gaius, we go from Gaius and the Cylon, like getting super hot, and then I think the next one is it Boomer and the Engineer?
Yeah,
and I see that, and
I'm Tyrrell.
like, is this a parallel? Is one of them a Cylon? Are both of them Cylons?
You can't see me grinning right now.
I'm jumping at all the fucking ghosts, right? I've also written like Cylon with an arrow to human with an arrow to Cylon, because I'm like, maybe we're going from a Cylon scene to a human scene to a Cylon scene as we introduce all the characters. Like, I am trying to put down every possible hint in these opening like 20 minutes.
Okay, I can't wait to get to the very end of this and you lay out who you think are the Cylons. Because what we have to point out, what we haven't said, is that it says at the start there are 12 Cylon models. Okay.
I didn't realize that.
I think that was in the intro, or maybe that doesn't come up. Okay, that might be the start of the next episode.
She says that there are 12 of her.
Yes.
That's what she says.
Yeah, yes.
And that she'll... Yes. I think it's a bit later, the blonde bombshell basically says, there's 12 of me. If I die, I'll just my consciousness will be sent to another version, and I'll be fine.
Yeah. Which is true. But it's more that there are 12 different models of Cylon. So
I'm not sure if that's a spoiler or not. I think it is.
Well, it might be, but it comes up. I'm pretty sure it comes up in the opening text of the next episode. So, so I don't.
It is a reveal at the end. At the end of the second one, is like one of
you do find out several of them. Which is very spicy, but we'll
specifically Adama getting a note which says there are 12 models of Cylons, and that being unveiled as like an oh my god, there's only 12 types sort of moment right in the end, versus like the absolute mystery, which I think we should cut this part basically because.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can cut this. Yeah, that's fine. Anyway, so there are many different models of Cylon, and so we don't know how many.
Yeah,
and
big mystery.
But we know. Yeah, I can't even remember where we were.
Me neither.
We'll just cut all this out. Okay, cool.
So the next thing that I wrote, I don't even know where we're at.
I think I think you were saying you were theorizing all these different Cylon pairs.
Yeah,
and
yeah. I'm questioning whether we're going from Cylon to human to Cylon, and I'm questioning like I'm just trying to put down like all the possible different writing techniques or like hints that they may be trying to give us,
which I think is very cool.
Yeah, and I think
because the there may or may not be Cylons aboard the ship or Cylons in the POVs we see. I think it is quite cool to see how you are looking at and whether they might be or not. And from my perspective, and maybe some people who are listening who are like, "Aha, I know."
This is like the ultimate gratification for me, where I just basically get to send my evidence to the world that I predicted correctly or not.
So we're 2 episodes in, and once we've watched all of the episodes, you'll be like, "I told you so."
So the next line in my notes is "New kid sus." A new character shows up. That nobody he comes in on his own. I think it's Lee. Not Lee. It is Lee.
Oh,
it's Adama Jr. So Lee Adama, the commander of the whole son. Battlestar Galactica, who's called Adama, has a son called Adama.
Yeah.
Who's now like a commander pilot, like a fighter
commander.
They're
like the captain. I think they're a captain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're a very high-ranking pilot, essentially of not the Galactica, but of somewhere else. But they've been ordered to come to the Galactica to participate in his father's like retirement ceremony, in the retirement ceremony for the ship.
Yeah, and I'm immediately like, no one's seen him for 2 years. Could be a Cylon.
Everybody,
I'm
you're a
jumping at everything.
You're a Cylon. You're a Cylon.
I have accused most of the people of being Cylons, but the people I'm confident aren't Cylons are the 2 old guys and the woman with cancer. Definitely not Cylons.
Okay.
And also Gaius is certainly not a Cylon, like early on.
Maybe
he turns into a Cylon later.
Okay,
I
interesting.
Don't know.
We'll see how that one plays out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is great. I think I'm looking through.
We want to skip ahead. I can read some of my notes because some of them I think are hilarious.
Yeah.
I've got based woman Chad Coda. Because I was like, oh, the woman, the Cylon, like, blonde bombshell, she, like, did all the coding and stuff. Wow, that's so based. And then I was like, oh, but they're kind of writing it off as she's a robot. So, like, this, but I'm just kind of pleased that it's from 2003 and it's got good, like women.
I don't
not
think her being
stupid...
a robot. Yeah. I don't think that really has anything to do with her coding prowess.
Yeah.
Her being a Cylon, really.
Yeah, but the show has, like, women in positions of importance, like very, very important, not just like.
Well, we have Starbuck, Ace Pilot, and in the original, because basically this is like a sort of rebooted Battlestar Galactica, the 2003 one. There was one before it, and I'm pretty sure Starbuck was a dude in that.
Yeah.
So they have like swapped them. Give them a little gender swap, which I'm sure people were very displeased about at the time because everybody's sexist.
Now it's cool. Now it makes the show look better.
Yeah, and she's badass. Yeah. And then we have like Dee, and we have we got a couple of, and we got the president. Who will get there. Hang on a second. But yes, was there anything else you wanted to?
I think I don't know if we want to go like scene by scene, but we've introduced.
No, I was just gonna basically just zoom across the whole So there's basically the war kicks off after the explosion of the station. The Cylons come, they start nuking, they start blowing up all these battle stars that we don't see. We just hear reports of all these battle stars have been lost. And we hear reports of some of the planets. There's 12 colonies of Kobol, and we hear reports of Caprica's been nuked, and PyCon's been nuked, and etc. etc. And like I noted down this actually. It says the nuke that hit Caprica City was a 50 megaton within the 50 megaton range, which I looked this up, is 3,000 times more powerful than the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima during the World War II. 3,000 times.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So the nukes are pretty spicy.
And they have like just hundreds of these covering the planet,
they're just
basically.
fucking just nuking the shit out of them. Well, I think they're being quite strategic and just taking out the like hitting them in certain places or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're basically just wiping out humanity. The Cylons, they're destroying the ships, and the ships are just mysteriously powering off when the Cylons get close. They fire a beam at them, or like irradiate some sort of thing at them, and they just shut down, and they're easy pickings.
Yeah, and then we get I think we get the Battlestar Galactica being approached by two Cylon ships.
Yeah, just two little
fighters,
raiders. Yeah, very small, just small little ships. They do have some nukes, but they're tiny little fighters. And they try and wave their beam weapon at the fighters that the Galactica sends, and they don't do anything because the Galactica's fighters are old as shit. They pulled them off of the museum floor.
That's the second one. There's a first one. They send out a wave of fighters quite far away to fight these two fighters, and
you're right,
those fighters shut down.
Yeah, they're the newer Mark 7 Vipers, right? The newer fighter ships.
Newer fighters.
They all shut down. And they all get killed instantly.
Yep. Immediately gone.
And Boomer and Hilo are with them, like, as their scout.
Two of our characters. The rest are, like, unnamed randoms.
Yeah, they're unnamed people. Like, there's the commander of the air group who has no name, and immediately they're all dead.
Yeah.
And so Boomer and Hilo, they go, well, fuck this, we're gonna die, and they run away. Yeah. And they get shot at and have to basically set down on Caprica. Because they're not too far away, the capital, like the sort of big colony, and are trying to repair their ship, and they pick up a bunch of survivors, and Hilo, he's injured in the escape, and he swaps himself for Gaius Baltar, who is alive on Caprica.
And Cylon fucker.
Cylon fucker extraordinaire, who has been in charge of coding all of these ships that are mysteriously shutting down. And
we do have a wonderful scene of the blonde bombshell sits Gaius down, tells him what's going to happen, and he
goes, I'm a Cylon.
Has to convince him, because he doesn't believe her.
He's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's only
You're a woman, we've had sex for 2 years.
Yeah, it's only when she goes round to like, it was part of my mission because of all those back doors you gave me in your
he's like,
military
what?
Code. And then he's like, oh no. And
he's like, I've done a bad here.
Yeah. But
I shouldn't have banged.
He then escapes the nukes and links up with Boomer and Hilo, who have landed on this planet. And I do want to pause there just to go through some of my sus moments.
Okay.
So first of all, Adama Jr., the captain pilot guy, I thought he was sus because he didn't drink coffee when his dad offered. Also because he was gone for 2 years. Those are two of my notes.
Yeah. Okay.
There was a shot that I just want to, like, it's kind of, I guess, just mention when they're, I think doing the speech or something. It has this shot of the crowd sitting in front of this huge window into space, and I just thought it just looked great. I just wanted to point that out.
Yes. Yeah. It was like it was the hangar bay, but they put a big window on it. And it's the museum side now. Very pretty shot.
Yeah. The Commander Adama, old man Adama, Admiral man, gives a great speech as well in there. I just It's a really cool speech.
Yeah, he gives it because he was originally going to give this prepared speech that he was preparing at the very start of the episode, and then he talks to Lee, and Lee doesn't want to talk to him because he believes that it's his father's fault that his brother Zach became tried to become a pilot, and he died in an accident involving the thing somehow, and he blames the Commander Adama for this, and that they have a bit of confrontation, and that forces the commander to sort of do this different speech, which is about like owning up to your mistakes and about how the humans made the Cylons, and they have to they can't wash their hands with what they've created. And
I think the old man Adama is, I think, one of the characters we see changing the most across the miniseries. A lot of the other characters change, but they change because they're like, it's the end of the world, lol. Whereas I think Adama changes quite a lot just because of the conversations and the scenes he has with other characters where he begins to sort of adjust what he's doing and change and see things in different lights.
Yeah. Yeah, he's because he's supposed to be like, you see him as this like strict military man who is just going to get shit done, and you realize that he actually cares a lot. He cares about his son. He cares about these other characters, and it definitely he sort of changes as the thing goes on.
Yeah,
definitely.
So I want to go to that first fight where all the fighters shut down. And Boomer and Hilo their ship is in charge of scouting. They're like reading out how many targets are coming in, and they're like, there's 10 targets, no there's 5, no there's 20, no there's 1. It's all over the place, like it's hard to read, and I'm like, okay, well that's sus. And then what happens is they scout it out. Boomer is like really nervous. She's piloting, and she's like very nervous, and the other character's like, we're gonna be all right. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, she's a Cylon, because she knows that all the fighters are gonna get super fucked up, and she's scared because the Cylons have to remember not to kill her, and it's her mission to live. But she's really scared that something's gonna go wrong. And like,
oh my gosh,
because it's like a real towing the line thing. But they like back off before all the other fighters get shut down, and they make it away, but I mean they do get chased, and the other guy gets hit, and I'm like, oh, he bleeds blood, so he must be a human.
Okay.
Hilo gets hit.
We haven't seen any Cylons bleed any blood.
We haven't seen blood. We don't know anything about Cylons. I thought they had super strength that they couldn't control, but they don't. So far, we've just seen one Cylon act really weird, and then also have a lot of sex, and that's most of it, really. Oh, yeah. So another thing I noted in this scene is that Boomer she's really nervous going in, and then as soon as all the fighters die and they escape the missiles, she immediately comes out with a plan. She's like, okay, we're gonna cut the engines. We've got enough inertia. We're gonna float through this debris field. We're gonna land on this planet. We'll set down. We'll fix the whole thing. We'll power up. We'll be fine. They'll never see us because we'll just look like an asteroid. And I'm like, she could be a Cylon. Because
any one of us,
she knew what to do. It seemed like she knew what was going to happen, and she had a plan that she just fucking regurgitated in that moment. And so I was sus at that.
Interesting. I think, have you got anything else about that sort of scene?
I think that's all my notes for that specific fighter scene. Which I did write like 4 lines as opposed to just writing like girl boss politician, which I wrote immediately after that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, like, sort of to sum up what happens a little bit after that, rounding up to the end of the episode, I think, of the first episode. I know that seems like we've gone through a lot, but these are 1.5 hour long episodes. So, and there's 2 for like the miniseries. It's basically a 3-hour movie, right?
Yeah. There's a lot to cover.
Yeah, and the Secretary of Education, Laura Rosalind, she's on the ship with a bunch of the other like staff and whatever, and they're on their way back to Caprica, and they're being escorted by Leah Dharma, the commander's son, in the like an older model of ship that they've refitted to perform in the show, so it hasn't got any of the fancy new shit. And they're having a little merry jolly back, and you find out about the news of the war. And Laura finds out that she is now the president, and she gets sworn in.
Because all other 40,
yeah,
is it 42 members?
Yes, something like
above
that.
her have all died.
Yeah, everybody else is dead. She's like 42nd or 47th. I don't know. She's very, very low down the list, basically, in the order of things.
She's Secretary of Education. That's her position. And then we have a scene with her being sworn in as the president.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, do we have any scenes of her?
No,
I don't think.
There's the scene, so the two fighters, obviously that initial Cylons versus humans goes horribly for the humans, but then the Cylons get to the Battlestar Galactica, and the Battlestar Galactica they basically just go to the museum part of the ship, and they just they make all the fighters functional to fly, and all those fighters are immune to this power down beam that the Cylons have because they're so old.
They're like Mark II instead of the Mark VII. They're like basically a second gen of Vipers. These little.
But just an important thing is that the Battlestar Galactica gets hit with a nuke,
which was a very great scene too.
I love the nuke scene. The nuke scene is so good. They do such a good job of the impact.
Yeah, and they're stood in the CIC and they're like, prepare for impact or something like that. And they're like, man, it's been a long time since I've heard that phrase.
It's a really good
And then
scene.
this nuke hits and just the whole ship just shakes through. And
then like there's fires across the ship, and basically there's this key important moment where they have to vent. I think it's the first moment where it really sets in that they are fighting a war and that they have to be making very tough decisions where they basically have to seal off a portion of the ship and vent it to get rid of a fire, and they've got like 100 engineers in there.
Yeah.
And it's like if we and the head engineer is like, we can get them out in I just need 60 seconds. I just need 1 minute, literally 1 minute.
Yeah, but the fire is spreading, and if it spreads any further, it'll hit the fuel lines and blow up the entire ship.
Yeah.
So this is a decision that needs to be made instantly, and there's no room for hesitation.
Yeah. So
and
they seal them off.
Who is the second in command, seals it off, and he's been very hesitant so far throughout the show. He's a drunk. He's been shown, he fights with Kara. Early on in the episode, you see him drinking all the time. He doesn't he's very much like, because there's nothing happening on the ship, he's just chilling out, and he doesn't have to put any effort in. And suddenly they're at war, and he has to make these tough decisions, and he's freaking out. He's looking over to Adama. He's like, make the decision for me, but he can't because he's too busy doing other shit.
Yeah.
And so he really has to it dawns on him that he has to actually step up and make some decisions.
I think they do a really good job of the progression from we're trained military personnel, and two of the people on this ship have been fought against the Cylons.
Yeah,
I think
it pretty much is just Adama and Ty.
Yeah, and everyone else is they aced they have really well skilled people, but they've all only been in training, and the ship is turning into a museum. It's literally on the day of decommissioning this goes down.
It's not like they're doing any military exercises or anything really. They're just nothing's happening on the ship. Really.
Yeah.
It's just chilling out. It's a museum nearly. Yeah.
And it's as you get across the two episodes, they slowly get more and more experienced.
They're like, oh shit, all of the things start kicking in. They have to make these tough choices.
Yeah.
And it starts dawning on them that they're in a war, and all of their planets they come from are all being destroyed.
They've lost all
their
homes,
friends they know,
and
their
basically
family.
Going back to the venting stuff, they seal it off, and they vent
Yeah.
the engineers, and they're all
Yeah.
like quite fucked up about it.
Yeah.
And beloved Lieutenant Prosner, who I mentioned really
Yeah,
early
yeah.
on.
Look, Overlite's like, yeah,
He takes the L.
Prosner, he's gonna be a Cylon, and yeah, he dies. He gets
dies.
vented into space.
Yep, dead in the first episode.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't think he gets vented into space. He gets like burned and suffocated in the venting.
Horrible.
You see his body, but he's dead.
Yeah. And then I think the final thing that happens is the ship that the new president is on gets attacked by a cylon, and
they fire a nuclear missile at them and then fuck off.
Yeah.
And Lee, luckily, the ship was transporting 2 EMP generators from the Galactica.
Oh, we don't know this yet. The way it ends is.
Oh no, we know that they're there because they mentioned them in the episode.
And it ends with because they are like trying to rescue people. They're this like transport ship or something. I didn't fully understand what was going on with the president's ship, but they had this like
well no, because at that point they were supposed to be traveling back to Caprica, and then she was like, listen, we can't go back because the war's happening. We're in the middle of this combat zone. Let's try and grab any civilian ships we can and just get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah, but they are trying to rescue another ship when the Cylon, they know the Cylons are coming and they choose to stay, and the Cylons appear and shoot the nukes. And then the last thing we see of them this episode is Captain Lee, Apollo, Adama fiddling with the EMP generators, and then it cuts to Battlestar Galactica, and we get the report that they have been destroyed in a nuke.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I really like that because immediately before that, in the vents, where everyone else is like really fucked up about having to make these hard decisions, especially like even the second in command, he's like a bit shaken that he's had to order the deaths of what ends up being like 85 people.
Yeah.
And then immediately after that, what is now the admiral of the entire fleet, I believe.
Yeah, I think, at that point he says, because the Admiral Nagala, I think they are, who was in charge of the fleet, they died.
Yeah.
And they reported dead, and he's like, I'm taking command of the fleet.
So immediately after losing all of those engineers, everyone else is like super messed up about it. The Admiral loses his son. And that's basically the end of the episode. And I like that they did that. Just to make sure everyone was a bit fucked up about it. just to ensure that everyone was feeling
like everybody,
real.
Every single person has felt that, like, some sort of loss, apart from Kara, because she's just out flying the ship shooting some Cylons right now.
Also, there's this amazing moment where Adama, the captain of this single vessel that's going to be decommissioned today, is now the admiral of the entire fleet, and the secretary of the education is now the president, and they have this little argument back and forth about who's in charge.
Yeah.
So he's like, no, I have all the authority now. No, I have all the authority now. What are you talking about?
Yes, we're in a war. Like, it is funny.
Yeah, I don't have that many. No, okay. There is, final, I guess, Cylon notes. I'm not even. These aren't really Cylon notes. Gaius is hallucinating. We're not really sure.
Yes, I
sure
like
he's
this.
hallucinating.
I noted this down. So this follows on quite a lot in the next episode. But he sees a version of the sexy blonde Cylon, and
but she's not real.
But nobody else can see her.
Yeah.
But is he just hallucinating, or have they implanted something in him? Is he a Cylon? You've got all these questions, and it doesn't answer it in these 2 episodes.
No,
that's for sure.
In my notes, I wrote, "Is Cylon fucker hallucinating, or is he Cylon brained?" Yeah. It doesn't really. It's just a question going forward from that point, which I found.
Yeah. And I thought, it's hilarious. I was watching it back, and I was thinking there are some scenes, especially in the next episode, where he's like chatting with someone and she's like sexily lounging on him.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, from a like filming perspective, because they got to pretend she isn't there. But like, imagine filming alongside that and having to just pretend that she isn't there at all, and she's just like leaning sexily on Gaius, and he's like looking around at her like.
From this point onwards, Gaius is the funniest character in the entire show.
Yeah, he's like very gone from like, oh look at me, I'm so sexy and suave, and I'm a fucking bit of a dick, and now he's kind of like freaking out because like I don't think he really. Like, I don't know if he actually does feel guilt about what he's essentially done, but he
pretends he's showing guilt.
Yeah, he says he feels guilty, but he also says to himself that he doesn't, but he's like very
I imagine
crazy now.
If you cause the apocalypse,
yeah,
because you were really horny.
Yeah, like, I mean, it happens to all of us.
Yeah,
I've definitely been there.
The best of us.
Yeah.
You get at least one, you know?
Yeah. Everybody gets one.
Yeah.
Apocalypse. Yeah. Luckily, we reset the timeline, so I learned from my mistakes.
Yeah.
Hey. So this episode has been very long, so we're probably going to cut it into 2.
Yep.
Here, Overlite and my thoughts on episode 2 of Battlestar Galactica next episode.
Coming soon.
To a podcast near you.
Whenever we release it.